Nathan, thank you for joining us on The World tonight. Can you tell us, what does Article 23 stipulate and how is it different to the national security law already in place?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Yvonne. The Article 23 local legislation is basically an extension of the national security law that was implemented directly from Beijing in the year 2020. The difference is it's going to go through the local legislation and consultation process, but we all know that under the current political social condition in Hong Kong, there's no way people can express their opinion freely. And it is expected that all these local legislation of Article 23 will go through the legislature without much hindrance.
So why are you concerned about Article 23?
So the Article 23 adds new elements on top of the national security law implemented in 2020. It adds up ideas of espionage, treason, and foreign political organizations, and gives the government overwhelming and all-encompassing power to crack dissidents and different opinion. So for now, the legal community and the international human rights community sees it as a really draconian and one step forward to suffocate Hong Kong's civil society and democratic activists.
Well, it's not the first attempt to enact Article 23. What happened in 2003 when, I understand, 500,000 people protested against it?
So we have a completely different Hong Kong in the year 2003. Beijing was not so intervening Hong Kong's internal affairs. Hong Kong people still enjoyed freely the way that they express themselves and political assembly, and everything turned really worse after the year 2020, after Beijing implemented the national security law. And in this version of Article 23 local legislation, basically the government adopted Beijing's worldview and also their understanding of national security wholesale. It's basically covered every single aspect of life, and also it creates a worldview that there are so many hostile foreign forces trying to subvert Hong Kong and make Hong Kong disappear, so that they need to put out all these very serious crime in order to protect Hong Kong's national security, which is not true, as we all know that the problem in Hong Kong is not there are many hostile foreign forces trying to subvert Hong Kong. It's that Hong Kong government and Beijing government doesn't listen to the demands of Hong Kong people and doesn't implement democracy.
Well, this time we haven't seen such protests in Hong Kong, as you mentioned before. Tell us what it's like. Are citizens a lot more fearful now of taking to the streets?
So after the implementation of the national security law, hundreds and thousands of Hong Kong people immigrated out of Hong Kong. They basically casting the vote of non-confidence by foot. So in the UK, I met a lot of Hong Kong people who just left Hong Kong because of political environment. They all say that it's suffocating to live there. They used to enjoy the freedom of speech and the idea that they can express themselves freely, even though some of the opinion are not convenient to the government. But for now, by doing so, it will cost you jail time. It will bring like police knocking your door in early morning 6 a.m. and then you'll be trialed without any justice. So that is a huge difference, especially comparing to the time the Article 23 last introduced in 2003.
And just because we don't see people on the streets, it doesn't mean that there isn't a lot of opposition to the enactment of Article 23. What are activists like yourself doing from overseas to challenge this new law?
So we have to understand the political context in Hong Kong now is just basically quite equivalent to the one in mainland China or in Russia. In many of these authoritarian regimes, even though people, they're upset and they oppose the government's behavior and their policies, but it's really difficult for them to speak out because the ramification is huge for them. They could end up in jail because of that. For the people like us who are now living in exile, we've submitted opinion paper, we've tried to attend a conference and talks to spread out the message. But indeed, the work that we are able to do is limited. The only thing that we can do is to keep the awareness up and to tell the community around the world that Hong Kong needs your attention and needs your help.
So what's expected to happen next with this law, and when do you think we'll start to see the impacts of it?
So the public consultation is coming to an end. This is one of the laws that impact Hong Kong the most, but there are very limited participation from the public. It is expected that the government will roll out a blue paper, which is quite a fully structured policy proposal to the legislature, and then it will be passed without much opposition.
Nathan Law, thank you so much for joining us on The World Tonight. Really appreciate talking to you.
Thank you so much.